Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Real Estate Playbook. My name is Andrew, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I know usually you see me up on a whiteboard breaking things down, more X's and O's strategies of real estate. But today I wanted to just take a kind of a just big picture view of where we are in the market and just some things that we're seeing right now. I wanted to bring in the big dog here, Jeremy Holmgren. Um, where I work right now, essentially, he is the state level manager of Utah. So he's got a lot of experience. He's been in the lending business for a very long time. So I wanted to bring him on here and just give you guys the opportunity to kind of pick his brain and just learn just what he has, what he's seen in the market. So I guess just for starters, how long have you been in the lending game?
So I got licensed back in 2007, right at the peak of
Perfect timing, probably.
perfect timing. Yeah, the market after that went in the wrong direction, right, with the 2008, big recession and crash. So, but that's when I got in. So, I was in when lending became very difficult. It wasn't super easy like it used to be prior to that. 2006, 7, there was a lot of stated income loans and a lot of very easy loans to get qualified for. And so,
do you mind if we just break that down real quick?
Yeah, sure.
And let them know. So let them know what is a stated income loan, because obviously right now, I mean, it's a lot harder probably to get, I guess, from your experience, to get loans done. And I guess maybe just break that down. Like, what is a stated income loan?
Yeah. So basically, if you had a good credit score, you could basically put down any income figure you wanted on the application. Didn't really matter. Lenders didn't require specific income to be verified. It was stated, like you would state what it is, and as long as your credit score, or if you had some money in the bank, some assets was there, they would approve you. So that's where that kind of brought a lot of regulation to our industry because of those types of loans that ultimately had a lot of trouble anyway, because clearly these people didn't have the income to qualify. They got in these homes, and it ultimately became a very negative thing for the finance industry. But yeah, that's I got in after that, so I wasn't in when that was happening, and it was easy to do loans. I got in when it was hard and challenging. So yeah, a lot has changed since then. But yeah, I've been around about 18 years now, I guess.
Yeah. But honestly, probably a perfect time to learn and just skid your teeth a little bit, because you're learning during the hard times. And obviously, if you started at 2007, I mean, you've seen the ups and downs, because you had 2008. And then what would you say was the next kind of pivotal moment? Was it COVID, or was there some time before that?
No, yeah. So 2008 was challenging. The big market crash. Real estate values started to drop significantly. Foreclosure rates were at an all-time high during that 2009, 2010 timeframe, because again, people were in homes they couldn't qualify for. People were short selling homes, which means you're selling it for less than what you owed on it because values were coming down. You may have had a loan at about $300,000, and then because the market declined, now your home's only worth $2,000. So people were selling homes less than what they owed to the bank, and so that was a short sale. You'd sell it, and there was an amount due to the bank for the difference. So yeah, it was a challenging time, but also for me, like, I didn't know any better, so I just learned the business kind of from scratch, so to speak, where it wasn't just you had a heartbeat and you're getting a loan. So
Yeah. So I guess just getting them up to pace then on kind of your career. So you were started originating in 2007. And then at what point did you kind of become more in a leadership role? Because now your role is a lot different, but you were originating from 2007 to roughly
probably 2015.
Okay.
So for about 8 years, I was primarily originating, maybe 2016.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a manager. I wanted to just produce. Typically, a loan officer can earn more money than their manager just because the sky's the limit on the production you can do. But there was a need at the company I was at. It was here at Zions Bank, where we had some turnover in management, and I was basically asked to take the manager role. So I kind of did, and here I am 10 years later. So
yeah. Well, we're glad you did. And I think probably, and you can share more, but I think maybe as in more of a leadership role, you get to see more big picture. Like, for the people who don't know, I am a loan officer, so I am more in the weeds. I'm down in the streets, pounding the pavements, doing the type of stuff. But you have the advantage of seeing more of a big picture, what's going on. And as we're recording this video here, we're in April of 2025. And for anyone who's been following the housing market, slash real estate market, there's been a lot of chaos, President Trump, tariffs, all these different things. I guess, what do you see going on right now, just compared to other things? Because you've started in 2007, so there's been a lot of different things.
Yeah.
From where we're at right now, where does this compare to the past? And is this something that's a long-term, short-term? Like, where do you see this playing out, and how long are we going to be in this, I guess, window of time?
Yeah, no, we've been in a kind of a high rate environment for a couple of years now, right? We started to see interest rates go up pretty significantly in 2023. All through last year, they've kind of been, higher than, higher than we saw in the past, 10 to 15 years. And so, I think that trend kind of continues. I don't see rates dropping and coming down, into the 3 to 4% range like we saw before. But I do see it kind of continue to stabilize. Right now, it's extremely volatile with, what Trump's doing and the deregulation and the tariffs and all the political noise that's out there. So it kind of remains to be seen exactly what the short term looks like. I do think it's going to be extremely volatile. We'll see days where the markets are up, the markets are down, and mortgage rates fluctuate accordingly as well with these, market indicators that President Trump's initiating. So, so maybe we talk short term, middle term, long term.
Yeah.
Short term, I think for people that are looking to finance a property, I think it's always a good time to buy real estate, no matter where the market's at, no matter where rates are at, no matter if home values are going up or down. It's always a good time to own real estate for a lot of various reasons, right? The tax benefits, the appreciation over time that you see in real estate. So a lot of people right now are maybe a little hesitant to get off the fence and buy if they're in that situation. So I would definitely always encourage people, if you can qualify for a home, you date the rate and marry the home, right? Rates always change. Rates can go down. You can refinance. You can be in a more favorable spot. So don't let that get in the way of you buying a home because you are waiting for rates to come down. That's kind of advice I always typically give people. And then, as far as what our market's going to do, Utah's market's a little different than kind of the nation. We're in a very good economy compared to the nation. We have the highest, employment rate. We have the lowest unemployment rate. We've got our population growth is still, higher than the nation. We're at 1.7% per year. The nation's at 0.5%. So we're triple the population growth. So there's a lot of people still coming to Utah, and
inventory is picking up big time. I mean, everywhere you drive, there's construction everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is exciting to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
So
good on the construction side, but then on the other side, existing homes, inventory is still really low, which can make it tough. So it is a difficult market, no doubt. Affordability is tough. The average home price in Utah is about $525,000. The nation average is about $350,000. So you can see the difference there, to where it's harder to buy a home here in Utah than the nation, just because of where our price values are at. So some of those challenges that we see, and we'll kind of see how things play out going forward.
Yeah. So I guess timeline perspective, short-term volatility, are you thinking 2 months, 3 months? If we had to put a rough, I mean, obviously I know it's hard to tell, but if you had a rough timeline of, we're going to be in this, is it the next 90 days and then maybe things will stabilize and then it's going to take some more time for rates to drop? But in terms of the roller coaster ride.
Yeah. Well, I think with the tariffs being paused, the big tariff announcements for 90 days, that'll kind of hopefully stabilize things a little bit. But yeah, beyond that, I think we're in this for 3 to 6 months before we start to see some trends to where, rates are going to come down. It's also going to be interesting to see what the Federal Reserve does with the Fed funds rate, right? If they start to say, hey, we've got to start cutting rate, the R word, recession, typically means the Feds have to cut rate. They want to bring down the rates. That could have an impact. So if those recession talks keep happening, we could see, rates come down and see it be a little bit more of a favorable environment for those of us trying to finance property. So
yeah. So I know you just used the R word. Do you think we're on the verge of a recession, or in your opinion, is that just, I guess, fake news? Is that just, fear tactic? Is that,
I think
economically, are we?
Yeah, I think
we're heading towards that.
I think all the indicators would suggest, yes, we're headed towards a recession. I just don't see that, the economy can can handle where we're at without it moving into a bit of a recession. I mean, rates have been up for so long, and inflation just continues to be there. So I think we'll have some sort of a recession. It's interesting in the mortgage industry. When the stock market does bad, we typically do good because people are moving their investments to a less risky investment. And a recession would be the same thing where, the economy kind of suffers a little bit, but it's going to, you have to bring rates down. The Fed has to do that to bring back some consumer confidence with spending. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that kind of flashes us back to COVID in the sense that that's when interest rates did get extremely low. And I know, in the mortgage world, it's kind of feast or famine, and it kind of can be the same way for homeowners, right? With rates going up or down. But there were several families that, refinanced 3-4 times, and now they're at a 2.36, 2.9% interest rate, right? That's never going to get that low again. And I heard a stat, I know it's a rough stat, but it's like 70% of Americans have an interest rate under 3% or something like that. Regardless, there's a lot of people out there who have a boatload of equity in their homes. And essentially right now, I know that's halting inventory. And like you said, there's a lot of pre-existing homes outside of the new construction that is just tied up. It's tied up in the mortgages. But now we are, 4 or 5 years from when that rate is. People have picked up a lot of equity. Is there anything that those homeowners can do right now to take advantage of that? Or should you just be waiting for interest rates to get down to that level? Or if you're in that boat, what could you be doing? Because that's a vast majority of homeowners in America. Besides the first-time home buyers who, purchased in the last couple of years. I mean, it's because I hear it all the time. I've got an interest rate at, XYZ, and it's this low, and it's like it's hard to justify doubling your mortgage payment just to have the extra bedroom or the bigger yard for your kids, or
sure,
the case may be.
I think it depends on, it's case by case. I think it depends on what you're looking at. If you're trying to tap into your equity for an investment or for some other need. For example, right now the country is seeing the highest credit card decline rate or delinquency rates on credit cards as high as it was since like 2010. So we're seeing a lot of people maxing out credit cards, leveraging their debt. Some people may need to be tapping into their equity of their home to pay off that debt. Or if you're in a situation where, you have a low rate and you have a lot of equity but the home isn't big enough, or you have to relocate, or you need to do something. A lot of people are keeping that home as an investment property, and moving on and buying something else. Now that requires you to, have assets that can help you buy something else, but it kind of depends on your situation. But yeah, you're right. A lot of people are completely content with their 3% rate, sub 3%, and, not going to be in a situation where they're going to get rid of that, and buy something else. Now, again, we still do see a lot of people do that. People have they move jobs, or they have too many kids and they can't, or people are downsizing, right? There's people that may have a lot of equity and they don't need the big home anymore, and they do have a low rate, but they're downsizing and cashing out a lot of that equity and are able to either pay cash or get a home that has a much lower loan amount than they did before. So there's kind of a lot of that going on that we're seeing in the market right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I love hearing that. And I'm just going to break that down for you guys a little bit more, because I know that was a lot of stuff. But essentially what I heard is use your house as the bank, right? Usually you're going to the bank get money, but you already have money in your house. So maybe just look at your situation, and obviously it depends on interest rate compared to personal loans or whatever. But to your point, would you rather have the 27% interest rate on the credit card or whatever it is on your mortgage, right? And I know a lot of families too right now who recently bought new construction. You may have bought a home when you didn't finish the basement, right? If you already put, equity in your home, you could access that, get your basement going, whatever the case may be. I think what you're saying is there's a lot of options that you can look at, and it's not just, I have to wait until, interest rates come down to that percent for it to make sense. There's a lot of different things you can do.
There is, yeah. And another one that a lot of people are doing is keeping their first mortgage at that low rate and maybe getting a home equity line of credit where they can access additional equity from their home in a second lien position, behind that first mortgage. Some people do that and they're paying off their cards that have a higher rate, or they're paying off credit cards that have a higher rate than the home equity loan. So, interest that you pay on a home equity line of credit is deductible just like interest on your first mortgage. So again, that could be an option too if you are in a situation where you have some debt to pay off and you do have equity, a home equity line could be a real easy way to help with that as well. So
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm gonna touch on the investment property situation real quick, just so people know, when you're buying a home compared to primary residence or investment, you're gonna get different terms, right? And obviously, if you're buying on primary residence, you're gonna get a lot better terms. So you may be taking out that cash out to buy an investment property cash, or like you said, house hopping from one to the next. Now, of course, don't stretch yourself to a stupid limit and do something foolish. But to your point, you can take advantage of that and leverage that because you're going to get better terms than you would on just a regular investment property.
yeah, and I think right now there's a lot of optimism that
Mhm.
in the foreseeable future, the near future, there will be an opportunity for rates to come down and to refinance. So even though right now, let's say you're buying an investment property or
Right.
buying that bigger home and you went from a 3 or 4% rate to a 6.5, 7% rate,
Mhm.
there will be chance to refinance and you've got the home you want, you're in the location you want, and the market will hopefully help out and you can refinance and then be in a better payment situation. But don't wait because you're waiting for rates to come down, because what we typically see in these cycles that we see through real estate is when rates start to come down, more people are willing to, okay, I'm going to sell my house now. Rates have come down. I'm going to buy something else. So the market has a lot more inventory. And when demand goes up, and let's say rates come down and there's an opportunity to buy, you might have multiple offers, right? And then people are spending more for the home and home prices start to go up. And so now you waited for 6 months for rates to come down. Well, now that home has gone up in value because demand went up and the price of the home went up, and you could have bought it at a higher rate, but you waited and now there's more competition. So that's something too that consumers got to be aware of, is
For sure.
what's the competition doing?
Yeah, and do you have the money to keep up with the down payment required? Because to your point, the appreciation, if you have X amount saved, is that going to cover the appreciation for your down payment?
Right.
Will it or will it not?
May not.
Because it may push you out of the box to even purchase anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
great stuff though. And I just want to shift gears to the other side of the spectrum. So we've got the homeowners who are already, owning a home. They've got their great rate. They love it. They're not first time home buyers. And, as we know in this market, that is a majority of the market is first time home buyers. And if this is your first time buying a home right now, and this is the market you're in, there's a lot of things to go on. I mean, outside of just a normal home buying deal, but you got the market, the news is blaring at you. Maybe just share some tips that you think would be helpful for a first-time home buyer. It doesn't necessarily even have to be in the loan side, but maybe just things you wish you knew when you purchased your first home, or advice you would give it, whether it's your own child or a niece or nephew or someone who's in the market looking and this is their first-time home buyer. Here's some things you need to know about and be prepared for.
Yeah, I think the first thing is don't be afraid of the information or understanding what it takes to buy a home. I think there's maybe some assumptions that I have to make X amount of money per year to even think about buying a home. I have to have all this money in the bank before I can even think to buy a home. It's never too early to start talking about home ownership and get with a mortgage professional like Andrew Pelishek, who can give you the insight and give you some information and help you understand what it takes to get into a loan. Because I think there's a lot of potential home buyers out there that could get into a home, but they're just not educated on what it takes. And they have assumptions in their head that they have to make so much money and have so much money in the bank. And that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of options out there for financing.
Absolutely.
So get with a mortgage professional, understand what it takes, and then get yourself on a path to, getting to where you need to earn enough income and have enough money in the bank on some program. So, but don't not talk about it. Talk about it. Don't be afraid to talk about it and ask questions and understand it, because I think people will be surprised that there's more options than they think out there.
Absolutely.
For what they can do.
Absolutely, for sure. And I want to touch on the rate thing real quick, because I think as somebody who's new to the market, that's all you hear. You hear the rate. But I guess where I would want to, point your attention to is, what is your payment? Because you're not paying the rate, you're paying the payment.
Right.
So there's things like that to look at, and I guess maybe just some helpful things that a lot of clients that are using right now. If you are first-time home buyer, explore gift funds. Do you have family members who could help you out with money, right? So to your point, maybe I don't have this much money saved. Explore co-borrowers, right? Maybe you need someone to add a little bit more income. like Jeremy said, there's so many different ways to be creative, and really it's just sitting down with someone to explore what are those things.
Yeah, I think there's people are concerned that though I'm going to ask a dumb question. I don't know how to buy a home. I don't know what it takes to qualify, and don't be afraid to ask those questions. And there really aren't dumb questions because if you don't know, you don't know, and it doesn't hurt to ask. You know, it's a conversation, and you may be surprised that there's a lot more options than you think out there, or at least you know, hey, I kind of know what I need to get to, and what my path looks like, and I'm going to be 12 months from now, I'm going to be in a position where I should be able to qualify, or 18 months or whatever. But highly encourage people to get educated on what it takes, and then also understand the benefits. Benefits of what equity can do for you, and how that can be long-term retirement because you're building up your wealth, your assets. That's something too that you don't really think about. You're just concerned about making a payment and qualifying for the loan, but realize that once you get in that home, over time there's huge value there. Where if you're just renting for that time, you're not really getting anything out of it, right? No additional equity, no additional asset growth. So something to just understand what's out there and what's available.
Yeah, I didn't tell them, but you were in the accounting world, so there's a tax benefit, right? There's some things like that. Is there anything first-time homebuyers should know about that? Obviously, you can use interest in your mortgage to, go against your, deductible income. But is there anything else, like tactically wise, a first-time homebuyer should know about? Or
I just think it's allowing your monthly expenses to return that investment back to you. When you're owning a home, it's an investment. You're making a payment. You have the benefit of the taxes or the interest you pay is deductible for tax purposes, but also just building equity. That's you're putting it into something that's giving you a return on your investment. And you can look at the real estate appreciation trends compared to like the stock market trends and other investment trends, and real estate has always performed extremely well over time. And so it's just a good investment of your money. So we're all trying to have our money do something for us, and real estate is a really good place for that. And don't discount how beneficial that can be for you long term if you are putting that money into a home.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying, when was the best time to plant a tree? Which was yesterday.
Yes.
And I think that's probably similar to this situation because for most Americans, that is how they're going to build wealth, right? Unless we're going some crazy strategies, but that is how most Americans are going to build their wealth. As a big part of it is through owning their home.
Yes, no doubt. Yeah.
So awesome. Anything other things you want to, advice you want to give here, or closing remarks before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, just be educated and know what's going on. I mean, sometimes it's hard to understand how what's happening in the political market or the investment market or whatever translates to the mortgage market and the real estate market. So that's why it's important to have a professional like Andrew Pelishek who can help you understand how that impacts what you're doing as a homeowner. Because there is a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of information that's, shared on public media outlets, and it can kind of frighten people or give you discouragement or give you fear to make investments or do something about, kind of makes you want to sit on the sidelines until things settle down. But just be educated, ask questions. There's people out there that can give good advice and good, strategy on what to do. And don't be afraid to get to know those people and real estate professionals, mortgage professionals. Because again, this is going to be the next 4 years with this president and what's going on could be a very interesting time. And make sure you're in the know and not in the unknown because of what's going on out there. So
be proactive, create a plan, execute the plan. That simple. So awesome. Well, I appreciate doing this with me. And guys, Jeremy talked about just learning it and getting informed. And honestly, that is the whole point of the Real Estate Playbook. The whole point is just to provide you with free value so that when you're going through this process, you are prepared and you're not just making I wasn't say happen, but you're not making a decision that is just rushed or it's not planned through, right? You're making a decision that you've thought through and you've got all this information here to learn and make that. So whether you're watching this channel or someone else's, or it doesn't really matter, but do your research so you can go out there and win in your finances. So anyway, guys, appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.